If you've ever rented a place in Spain, you know the struggle of trying to get your security deposit back. I never thought of it, but then when my landlord refused to give me a single penny for my security deposit, even though we did everything we're supposed to do, I was left in shock. So in this video, I'm sharing my experience and talking about why so many tenants in Spain face the same issues. So stay tuned even as we discuss.
Nomads.
So let me tell you a bit about my experience. My husband and I rented an apartment here in Malaga. The rent was €750 per month, which is exactly isn't cheap for the area. But we moved in because we had no option back then because of the housing crisis in Spain. Over time, we were in the apartment, and while we were in the apartment, we had repair people. Things were falling out, fixing, leaking faucets to broken appliances. There were issues, and which is normal for older properties which have not been renovated for a long time. And we actually paid our rent as when due, you know, before due rather. Everything was going well. We had good relationship with the landlord and the landlady. But when it was time to get our deposit back, we got nothing, not even a single euro. Like, the landlord and his wife were claiming there were damages, but the truth is that most of these issues have been there before we moved in. And it was just normal wear and tear, and there should have been no reason why we should at least not get half of our deposit. And side note, this house has been in existence for over 20 years without hardly any renovations. The house has been used for a holiday apartment. And while this happened, after it happened, I went on Facebook to see if anyone else has dealt with something similar. And honestly, I was shocked by the response. And the comment flooded in, story after story of people who had been robbed of their deposit too. Some people lost hundreds of euros, ridiculous claims, and many say they didn't even fight it because the process is exhausting and expensive. It's honestly an eye opening to see how common this issue is. Here are some of the comments. I want to clarify that I'm not here to bash my landlord, my ex-landlord, should I say, because I've moved out of that apartment. This video is about my experiences and to educate anyone that is hoping or planning to move to Spain, renting a house, or living here. So it's like a culture shock for me, being new to the system, because that was actually the first house I stayed upon my arrival to Spain. So in Spain, landlords can sometimes get away with withholding deposit for reasons like damages or cleaning fees, even when there is nothing actually wrong with the property. It's a widespread problem. So many tenants just accept it. Tenants like me had to accept it because then, not like the money is not substantial for me. It's actually a huge sum because you pay exactly times. It's like you paying times two or even times three. Sometimes you pay your rent, and the same amount of rent you pay is the same amount of security deposit you pay. So here's what actually frustrates me. Spanish law actually protects the tenant legally. Landlords are obliged to return the security deposit in full unless there's a clear proof of damage. And even if there's a damage, they can only deduct reasonable costs. Normal wear and tear should not be deducted or to use the entire money. So I was shocked how I felt that tenants are actually protected, which the law says, but then the reality is not the case. So the legal process is actually slow. There's nobody to actually go to and be like, okay, this is what I went through. The process is not worth fighting for, literally, because of the hustle and the bustle you're gonna go through. And sometimes, if you don't know how to speak Spanish, you might be thrown in the bag. So while I was expecting that, okay, even if there is a wear and tear in the house, maybe the landlord can take a part of it and fix the house. But no, it took the entire money, claiming this was spoiled, that was spoiled. And well, that aside, now let's talk about house hunting in Spain, because it's not as easy as it seems. As a foreigner, there is more to the process than just signing a lease. There are documents you need proof of income, the Spanish bank account, and sometimes your insurance. The insurance is the one that is going to determine if your application is going to be considered. Okay, many homes these days are smaller than expected and often overpriced for what they actually offered. The house we rented was over 20 years, and to be honest, most Spanish homes I've seen are like this: minimal renovations until things start to fall apart. The apartment has been used on a holiday as an holiday apartment for short-term renters before we moved in. So for some reasons, the landlord didn't make any complaints when we decided to renew the contract after 6 months. So we ended up staying for 2 years, and because it was actually hard to find an apartment we actually liked, because most of them were old, having this old outlook, and then it was just so hard. Okay. So if you're renting in Spain, here's what I would suggest to protect yourself. The mistake I made was not taking pictures in my own end, taking photos, or actually telling them, that, hey, look at this thing, it's actually old and I need you to move it out, or rather bring in my own property. And secondly, and you should actually get a detailed report that is signed by both you and the landlord. And finally, if the landlord refuses to return the deposits, do not be afraid to seek help. Of course, the process is going to be tedious, but if you actually want to get that money, like you really want to get it, then go and see a lawyer, or probably a tenant association. I'm not aware if there's any tenant association, but then say that the tenants have more rights than we think. Okay, so the whole deposit issue was frustrating, but I've learned that landlords shouldn't be allowed to take advantage of tenants. Even though the process can be tough, it is important to stand up for your rights. Well, this is my story, and I thought to share in this video. If you have experience, if you have similar experience with landlord refusing to return your security deposit, please share your story in the comments. Let's talk about this, because it's an issue that actually needs attention. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future content. Viva España! Yes, long live Spain. I love Spain and I'll forever love Spain. Thank you for watching. Adios.